If you're easily disturbed, you may want to turn away, because these dozens of accounts are part of a thriving and chilling trade. From skulls to wallets made of skin, the sale of human remains. Advertised online, delivered straight to your door.
So we were able to order some bones. I find it quite unnerving, quite upsetting really, to think about what's inside here. But this is what's being sold online. So let's take a look. It's a very macabre experience. Okay. We have a handwritten note of what's inside, and it says that we've got a rib, vertebrae, a kneecap there, a finger bone, and a clavicle. No explanation about where these have come from or who they were or when they're from. And it's really strange to think these were people. Now they're being sent in the post.
So where are these body parts coming from? Some are ex-medical skeletons, but others are far less ethical. This church crypt in Kent has stored skulls and bones for hundreds of years. Now it has a double lock system and high-tech security alarm.
So you've got pretty hefty security these days.
Yeah, sadly it's necessary.
Necessary after the front door was smashed in during a robbery.
21 skulls had been removed from the shelves down there. And naturally that caused great concern because it's tantamount to grave robbing. These are human mortal remains.
What do you think about this trade in human remains, potentially including skulls taken from here?
I think it's very reprehensible indeed, and certainly most people around here, they would never believe that such a thing were possible. And it wasn't until we made some investigations that we realised that, yes, indeed, there is a trade.
What is the difference between bones being displayed here compared with, say, in someone's living room?
The principal difference, I suppose, is that this is holy ground. This is within church property. And for them, they would never imagine, I would think, that they would be used as ornaments or items of curiosity.
They were grisly transactions, all in the name of profit.
As well as grave robbing, much of the human skin available was likely stolen from the morgue at the Harvard Medical School. The human remains trade is a multi-million-pound industry. A skull starts at around £400. A child's skull is nearly 10 times more, while a wallet made of human skin is around £6,000. It used to be incredibly difficult to buy body parts, but thanks to social media, sales have risen by around 500% in recent years. Babeo is a group of academics and experts aiming to stop the trade.
Currently, selling human remains is legal.
Yeah, you can do that, yes, which is a terrible thing to say and seems awful, and I think everyone would be very shocked to think that that is something that is possible to do, because I think everybody would think that there are regulations in place to prevent that and that that shouldn't be able to happen, and that there are other regulations in place in terms of maybe animals that are far more stringent.
So in essence, it is illegal to sell, say, ivory, but it's perfectly legal to possess and then sell human remains.
Yes, sadly that's the situation that we're in, and that's what seems so ridiculous, really.
What do we think people are using these human remains for?
Could be different things like ritual or magic. Somebody may just have an interest in it. They may see them as artistic. You dread to think sometimes maybe what some of the things then are being used for. And that's what's so terribly sad, is that they never envisaged anything like that happening to them.
We've identified more than 80 accounts selling human remains. Some are death influencers with tens of thousands of followers. We spoke to some of the sellers. Few could say where the body parts came from. We asked one if they had any bones available. The answer, I have tons, lol. Another seller tried to haggle the price of a human foot. A third said their remains were taken from cemeteries and vague, lost and trashed places. Patrick's a journalist who's been investigating the trade for years.
People are buying everything and everyone. There are the remains of adults, the elderly, children, babies, fetuses, covering almost every different ethnic group. There are human remains that have clearly come out of the ground at some point. There are body snatched specimens, so specimens that have come from graves.
We took the bones we ordered to a forensic expert to find out more.
So the obvious first question is, are these actually real? Are they human bones?
These are definitely real human remains. This one, this longer one, is a right rib, and it's from an adult individual. We have this bone, which is a vertebra. Here you have two holes, which tells me there was a wire going through. We see this in many of our teaching anatomical human remains that we have. I would say that the appearance of these bones, the completeness, the preservation, the holes on the vertebra, are more consistent with what we would call anatomical teaching human remains.
These are some of the skulls we found advertised for sale online at the moment. We've got one here which claims to be the skull of someone attacked with a hammer. Looking at the photos, would you believe that to be the case?
What does strike me is that the fracture pattern that you see is consistent with what we call perimortem trauma. Perimortem trauma is trauma around the time of death. This seems to be a violent related trauma in my experience, so potentially, yes, it could be from a murder victim. It seems to have been autopsied, which is what I would expect, so again, interesting to see where these come from.
Some sellers do consider stolen bodies to be immoral, but even ex-medical skeletons pose serious ethical questions. Donating a body to a hospital is not the same as agreeing to be displayed at someone's home. And many, especially from the Victorian era, were also stolen from graves. The remains of people who never expected that in afterlife they'd be sold by dealers in death.
Wow, Sam, this will be a surprise to many. Legally a grey area. Why isn't it regulated?
It sort of falls through the gaps of different laws, but essentially there's nothing that bans the buying and selling of human remains except for transplants. That isn't allowed. But when it comes to grave robbing, the actions of disturbing a grave and exhuming bones without permission, those are illegal, those are crimes, but there's nothing specific about what happens to those bones afterwards. And we've seen a massive increase in the trade, possibly by around 500% over the past 5 years, in part thanks to this loophole and due to the rise in social media.
Sam, the bones that you managed to buy, what will become of those?
So just as when a construction site accidentally uncovers human remains, we'll be handing them over to an archaeologist who will either place them in a museum or rebury them.